Alright, we got the first joint practice between the Eagles and Browns, and the defenses brought it. However, Jalen Hurts eventually found a rhythm, and a big thanks for that to Johnny Wilson. Plus, Kevin Patullo dialed up some creative looks for the running backs, and Darius Cooper got even more praise. Granted, the cornerback battle continues to be uncertain, with Jakorian and Bennett struggling the most on Wednesday. But let's talk about why it's not time to panic yet, get into A.J. Brown's injury update, and go over a significant Browns injury that could impact the Birds. But first, let's run it. What's up, guys? You realize that we're 3 weeks away from the season opener against Dallas. I mean, it really can't get here fast enough, because not only do we get to watch the Birds play and kick off the season in style in Philly, but we also get to witness Dallas and Jerry Jones go through the hell of having to be present for the Eagles' Super Bowl banner getting raised.
Let that be us.
Oh yeah, that's not to mention that with each passing day, it's looking more and more like a possibility that Micah Parsons might not even be on the field for the contest, since there haven't been any noteworthy movements on the latest contract talks for the Cowboys' best player, which resulted in Parsons strangely getting a back injury all of a sudden to hold him out of practice. Of course, you're right, who cares what's going on in Dallas? However, if you hadn't come to this conclusion already, the Birds' success and dominance en route to winning their second Super Bowl in franchise history only has Jerry jealous.
If we're not being looked at, then I'll do my part to get us looked at. The beautiful thing for networks or, if you will, streaming companies is that the NFL is a 365-day-a-year interest factor. A lot of programming, you have to spend as much to make it, to promote it, as you do to make it. The Cowboys are a soap opera 365 days.
The stream will begin
when it gets slow, I'll stir it up.
Please take your seats.
And so it's wonderful to have the great athletes, have the great players, but there's something more there. There's sizzle, there's emotion, and if you will, there's controversy. That controversy is good stuff in terms of keeping and having people's attention.
I say it all the time, but could you imagine if we had to deal with that type of an owner and general manager with that type of mindset? Heck, it's no wonder that Jerry's priorities have left the Clowns with a 4-10 playoff record since 2000. Along with, we already know this, but 0 Super Bowl appearances and 0 NFC Championship game appearances. And yet somehow the Cowboys soap opera came in as the most valuable football franchises among all NFL teams' valuations at $12.8 billion.
All money ain't good money, Jerry. Say it again. All money ain't good money, Jerry.
For the record, the Eagles came in at number 6 at just above $8.4 billion, just for those wondering. Although as for the respect among NFL GMs and players, Philly unsurprisingly ranks at the top of that list. So it makes sense that Cleveland Browns head coach Kevin Stefanski spoke to that notion of how well the organization is run in Philly, and also that being the reason they chose to hold a joint practice for the third time during his tenure. Granted, both Nick Sirianni and Stefanski did agree on no live tackling for either side, but that didn't mean the squads weren't going to get a lot out of joint practice.
The biggest thing is just run it like a game as best we can so we can feel just the structure and the organization of the flow of how we're going to do things and get plays in and out and organize it to where the guys feel like they're playing in a game. That's why these things are fun, because you can go against another opponent. They haven't necessarily seen what we're going to do, and we can kind of get in the flow of play calling and game-like situations. Besides the fact that the starters get the most reps that they will in the entire preseason, that might be the biggest benefit. After all, there's a good bit of hype around Patullo as the new offensive coordinator. Yet even he admitted trying to get into a rhythm of play calling and having a feel for what the defense is trying to do in the heat of the moment is one of the biggest areas to work on. So with that being said, Wednesday was the most important day yet this summer for the Eagles, as the Birds put their 9-2 joint practice record on the line against the Cleveland.
Hey, nobody cares. Nobody cares.
Fine, you're right. Nobody really cares about unofficial practice records. Although the thing that got most of the media's attention at the NovaCare complex was Browns quarterback Shedeur Sanders, since right before practice it was announced that he'd get the start on Saturday versus Philly, assuming Dillon Gabriel can't play with his hamstring injury. Yet unfortunately, after almost an hour of practice and 0 reps from Sanders, it became evident that something was up, with Adam Schefter later breaking the news that Sanders suffered an oblique injury while throwing during the early portion of drills and got held out the rest of practice. Not gonna lie, I think most of us were feeling this way, but I was really looking forward to seeing Tanner McKee versus Shedeur Sanders on Saturday. Still a possibility, we'll keep you posted there. It feels less likely, but man, the Browns, they're just cursed. By the way, the reason I say that is because not only is Dillon Gabriel dealing with a hamstring injury, but so is Kenny Pickett, meaning after the injury to Shedeur, the Stains are down 3 quarterbacks in the room. Of course, they still have Joe Flacco, and based on all reports, it seemed like Flacco's been the frontrunner for the starting job so far. Still though, when Myles Garrett re-signed this past offseason following his wish to see Cleveland prove they were serious about a championship, I don't think this is what he had in mind.
Who we are ain't so bad.
Anyway, while the media was primarily focused on the quarterback storylines, the most popular player at the NovaCare complex might have been pass rusher Obo Okoronkwo. Seeing as though several of his teammates came over to say hi, ask how much he's liking Philly, and thoughts on if they could use a little bit of help.
Do you guys think you could hire me?
Obviously, anyone would take Myles Garrett, but despite some people saying that there's a need or a weakness for the pass rush, I'm pretty confident in that position, and I'll get to that in a second. But first, I want to talk about one thing that I am confident in, and that's the sponsor of today's video, Grüns. If you're like me, I'd seen their products in the past, but it wasn't until I got a chance to try them that I was finally sold. But if you're not familiar, it's pretty sweet because Grüns will send you these 28 daily packets, and they're basically like superfood greens gummies that have over 20 minerals and vitamins in each of them. Plus, Grüns contains 3 times the amount of dietary fiber compared to the leading greens powders. They also contain biotin and niacinamide, which supports thicker hair, nails, and skin health, along with super mushrooms for brain and gut health, as well as vitamin C to fight off those free radicals during the flu season. Which, let's be honest, with the school year approaching or already here for some of us, we had to find something to give us a little bit of a boost. I mean, honestly, I lost count last season how many times I was hopping on here and saying, well, we had another one of the kids get sick, or it's a delayed video because we're dealing with a sickness in the home. But thankfully, we found a solution to that to boost the immunity because they have a kids option with the same all-in-one gummies to support immunity, brain development, and development growth for ages 2 to 13. The best part is, besides the fact that my kids will actually eat these things, is that thanks to their sponsorship with the Philly Special Show, you can get up to 52% off for a limited time. Not gonna lie, this has been the absolute easiest way to get in multivitamins because whether I'm on the go or I forget about it, just have the daily packet, you're good to go. They have sugar-free options as well, and they're vegan-friendly. These things aren't gelatin. They taste really good. All you got to do, take out your phone, scan the QR code on the top right, or there's a link down in the description. Just go check it out there. You click that, get 52% off on your first order of Grüns. I'm telling you, as a parent of 2 toddlers, it can be a little difficult to get them to eat all their fruits and vegetables, but this one solved it for us. So give Grüns a try for yourself, and for you parents out there, you got to check out the kids option. Use the link in the description, scan the QR code, get 52% off. Trust me, you will not be disappointed. One thing I was disappointed in, though, on Wednesday was not seeing A.J. Brown out there. After all, it's hard to run your full offense without one of your best players. Now, no, I'm not sounding any alarms. We were fine. We're going to be okay. But it would be nice. I mean, we've had 2 practices with a full complement of weapons and offense so far throughout the offseason or the preseason. It'd be nice to get him back out there, but yes, we're going to be all right. However, the strange part on Wednesday was seeing A.J. Brown is completely out on the injury report. This coming after the 28-year-old missed back-to-back sessions the last couple days, except technically he was listed as limited and got in some individual drill work and reps to test out his hamstring. Now, my hope is that all this is just being extra cautious. Yet when you see AJ downgraded to out as opposed to the limited designation he received in the past, I can't help but wonder if he re-aggravated it. FYI, I should point out Jeff McClain did say his understanding is that it wasn't a setback, so hopefully that's the case and we'll see in the next few days. Either way, I guess the silver lining, like we've said these last several days, is that it meant more reps for wide receiver Darius Cooper, with the undrafted free agent getting the crown of approval from the voice of the Eagles, Merrill Reese, before practice, as well as a couple other guys in the building.
His physical skill set, you could kind of see it in the spring a little bit, just running around like, okay, this guy's a little bit different. So I think from that standpoint, you just don't know how far it'll go. And that's where we just got to continue to push him to see how far he can get with his game. And he's done some nice things, but we all know, right, it's a long haul. So he's got to continue to kind of do that to just keep progressing. So when we see the progression at the end, we'll see what we have.
His hands, he has very strong hands. And it's crazy because after the game, I went and watched his college highlights because I didn't really know, much about him. And man, he's a freak of nature, man. He's fun to watch.
So you went back and looked at after this past preseason game, threw some film on. How'd you get the film with that? It just went on YouTube.
Oh, YouTube got everything.
And what impressed you about what you saw in college?
The run after catch ability, the strong hands, all the things that you see out here, he had it then, and now he's just putting it together. Competition's a little different out here. You still see him; he's steady rising.
For a guy whose favorite player is A.J. Brown, Darius Cooper is in the perfect place. I mean, you have Smitty now talking about looking up his highlights and YouTube, impress yards after the catch. You got A.J. Brown taking him under his wing. Heck, Kevin Patullo talking about the benefit there. Even Aaron Moorhead, the wide receivers coach, is putting more on his plate. So look, if the 23-year-old can go out there this Saturday and put on another strong showing like in the first preseason game, I think it's a lock for a roster spot. In fact, quite honestly, I kind of already feel that way, but one more game should definitely do the trick, which is the same way I feel about defensive tackle Gabe Hall, who thankfully was back in full pads after missing only one practice due to the shoulder injury he suffered in Sunday's practice. Of course, for the record, he was still officially limited, so didn't get in all that work, but it was nice to see him back out there. Just like it only felt right to finally have Zack Baun rotating in during 7-on-7s.
It's fantastic. I've been trying to play the game in my mind, watching film, being as in it as possible, even though without taking reps. So back like I never left.
This linebacker room is crazy, and something, by the way, that Baun even admits compared to last season is noticeably different. And yeah, an all-pro who's barely scratched the surface in Fangio's defense with one of the highest football IQs in the league, it's almost unfair because of the versatility that all these guys have. Yet the dynamic that makes Philly special is that selfless leadership that's always on display.
I'm just trying to be a resource to him and really to all the guys, but I just don't want to be that vet that hides the secret sauce or doesn't give the secret ingredient. That's not who I am. I'm trying to build everyone up around me, and Jihaad especially can be so good. I just want to get him to his best, playing his best ball as early as he can.
Look, Jihaad is a freak, so he most likely would have been incredible wherever he went. But to be in Philly with guys like Zack Baun to look up to and learn from is only speeding up his development at an insane pace. Also, speaking of an insane pace, Lane Johnson told Jeff McClain that Landon Dickerson had surgery Wednesday morning to correct the meniscus injury to his right knee. And despite the regular season opener being just 3 weeks away, doctors won't rule him out being able to play week 1.
For Landon, nothing's ever too serious. You know, he's one that's always playing through something and has a great competitive spirit, has an edge to overcome some of those nicks that come up. And so always good to hear that he's in a good place. And, you know, as far as everyone stepping in to fill that role in the meantime, got a lot of confidence in them, got a lot of confidence in Brett, got a lot of confidence in Tyler Steen and Pryor as well.
Honestly, like I've maintained, we're going to be fine, and who knows, I mean, as we were also saying, Micah Parsons may not be present for Dallas, will be more than okay against the Cowboys. Like, I'm all for Landon getting as healthy as possible and not rushing anything, but at the same time, it's Landon, and like Jalen said, not much keeps him down long. Anyway, on the topic of injuries, the latest report has a few minor updates. Obviously, we discussed A.J. Brown's hamstring already, as he was a no-go. And then Elijah Cooks, Landon Dickerson, and Kenyon Green all sat out as well. Granted, when it comes to the limited guys, most of them got in work during 7-on-7s a little bit, or at least during the individual drills, but not quite ready for the full 11-on-11s. With the limited players being linebacker Zack Baun, defensive tackle Gabe Hall, tackle Miles Hinton, running back Montrell Johnson, and defensive tackle Byron Young. All right, so got you caught up there, but let's get to the competition because there's several elements to point out from Wednesday's practice. First, with the special teams, beginning with Avery Williams first up at punt returner. And then for the cornerbacks, Kelee Ringo got the start over Adoree Jackson in 11-on-11s, making the tally 8-6 in favor of the vet. But truth be told, Adoree was the one who played really well Wednesday, featuring a nice pass breakup on his first rep in 1-on-1s, and then came back to swat the pass away from wide receiver Cedric Tillman on a later rep. Meanwhile, on the other field, Jahan Dotson had a really nice rep where he made a super hard cut and created a ton of space. However, despite the wide receivers making a ton of plays, the general consensus was that Jalen Hurts was not on his A game and even threw an interception in 1-on-1s to cornerback Myles Harden.
What's wrong with him?
You probably already know this, but just in case not, getting picked off in 1-on-1s does not happen very often. Of course, no reason to sound the alarms, even though on the first 7-on-7 period, Hurts also got picked off by linebacker Devin Bush trying to force it into Dallas Goedert.
I'm worried.
It wasn't the best day to start for Jalen, going 3 for 6, an interception, or I guess 2 if you count the 1-on-1 drills. But as with most things in practice, not everything is as it seems, and the mistakes didn't faze QB1.
You learn a lot. You learn a lot about where you are, and then you learn about where you have opportunity to go. And I think today was very competitive. I've always enjoyed every joint practice just from that state. And then we got a lot of guys not practicing as well, and so being able to put guys in different situations and just build and learn. And you know, when you go into a joint practice, I've noticed and over time, you know, there's sometimes where you're game planning, there's sometimes where you're aware, and there's sometimes that you're not game planning for the practice. You kind of just go out there and try to play ball. And so Coach Schwartz, Coach Stefanski, and the Browns are always a great team to compete against. They got a They got great talent.
As expected, Jalen picked it up after the sluggish start, hitting DeVonta Smith for a couple throws and ultimately capping off a drive with a touchdown to Smitty. Plus, Johnny Wilson was easily the biggest beneficiary of A.J. Brown being out, with the 6'6" wideout winning on a slot fade very similar to what we saw in the preseason game. And then again on a go route down the sidelines as the 24-year-old went up over Browns cornerback Cameron Williams to rip the ball away for the catch.
Here's Johnny!
Is it me, or is Johnny starting to come into his own? Like, it does feel like the Bengals game instilled a bit more confidence based on recent performances. Anyway, after the score, Jalen nearly threw another interception on a 5-yard pass to A.J. Dillon, with a defender getting a hand on it, causing the ball to go up in the air, yet somehow it didn't get picked. Hurts was also sacked by Myles Garrett in 11-on-11s, and obviously that happens quite a bit throughout the regular season, although I was not able to see who the player was that Garrett beat to get the sack. And then when it comes to Tanner McKee, he looked pretty good, as QB2 took advantage of Johnny Wilson's size to complete a deep ball and give his receiver a chance. I'm telling you, if Johnny becomes consistent with these types of catches, he's a mismatch every time he steps on the field. Either way, let's just say not nearly the type of concern with the wide receiver position that we maybe used to have as there is for the cornerback spot. Because despite Adoree Jackson getting the start and playing the best out of the guys battling for the job, multiple beat writers still left uninspired. Oh, by the way, for the record, just for those wondering about the other starters on defense, the safety position was Sidney Brown. For the linebackers, it was Zack, Baun, and Jeremiah Trotter Jr. Although, as I mentioned, Baun only got run in during 7-on-7s and then rotated out with Jihaad Campbell. Still, though, even in very limited reps, Baun was able to break up a pass from Kenny Pickett and almost came away with the INT. Meanwhile, when Ringo got in at corner, he made a few plays and was mostly solid, but the general consensus was that he was super close to making big-time plays but just couldn't come away with the grab. And then unfortunately, similar to how he got beat against Jamar Chase, gave up a big play to Jerry Jeudy. So when we got the update that Jakorian Bennett got in with the first team and made a nice pass breakup with good coverage against wide receiver Jerry Jeudy, that naturally spiked the hype as soon as that happened. It's just that not even a couple plays later, we heard that Bennett got beat for a touchdown pass, followed by giving up multiple completions over the middle and later getting flagged for pass interference. So yeah, the idea of making a move for another cornerback is starting to heat up.
How do you evaluate the risk of not doing something?
I get that notion, but personally, it's still way too early to give up on Jakorian Bennett. Like, let's give him some time, and who knows, maybe once he gets acclimated, he'll start proving his worth. Kind of like Azeez Ojulari. Heck, truth be told, we hadn't heard much about the Philly dog around training camp. However, he definitely made his presence felt against Cleveland, after recording a sack versus the Browns' second-team offense before making another nice play to stop the run against the Browns starters. And even though we may not see it day in and day out, Jalyx Hunt says not to count him out.
Azeez is my dog, man. He actually, he pointed me in the direction of just, like, understanding my rushes, learning my rushes, learn what works for me, what doesn't work for me, how to be comfortable. So being able to watch his rushes and how comfortable he is and how he can throw one rush with different sets, something I wanna take from him and everybody in our room. Obo, he just got here. Like Uche, he just got here. So everybody. I just ask questions, but Azeez, yeah.
Stop me if you heard this before. Moro Ojomo had another very dominant day, with Lane Johnson telling reporters, take it from me, he's the real one. And the same for Jalyx Hunt, who pressured Joe Flacco multiple times, as well as Josh Uche, who ended up getting a sack on one rep. Also, as much criticism as we've thrown Brett Toth's way, he deserves some credit for filling in for Landon Dickerson, because he reportedly held up well and kept Darian Kinnard isolated with the second-team offense. But although the O-line isn't rotating, the running backs have been, with Kevin Patullo specifically testing guys in different spots and A.J. Dillon coming up with a receiving touchdown during practice.
All three of them really have totally different skill sets, obviously, between Saquon and Will and A.J. and the rest of the guys. And Jamal does a great job of just kind of mixing them in. And really now's the time to just kind of test them and see what else they can do. You don't know a skill set until you see it, right? So I think we've done a good job of putting A.J. in positions to catch balls and run routes and put Ship in a position to be a pure runner, so you can kind of test it all now and see what you have. And Jamal does a really good job with that to kind of balance it out, so we're not just getting this is what he has to do or this is what he does. So I think it's been fun to just kind of experiment and see what they can do.
Personally, I love what I've seen from the running back room so far. In fact, I think that it's kind of getting just overshadowed because there's other positional battles. But the guys behind Saquon Barkley, Will Shipley, A.J. Dillon, there's a whole lot to like coming into this season. Which is why I say, to be expected, but still worth noting, the Eagles' run game was dominant on Wednesday, as Jordan Mailata and Tyler Steen specifically were called out for some excellent run blocks on Myles Garrett to create big holes for Saquon Barkley and Will Shipley. Now, I don't know if it was Philly getting physical in the run game or the heat there, just the exhaustion from the players, but we actually got our first scrum of training camp. And oddly enough, it came during a special teams portion with players pushing and shoving before being separated. Honestly, maybe the heat played a factor in not allowing it to escalate because Jordan Mailata looked exhausted when the first team was done. To be fair, though, trying to block Myles Garrett for an hour plus would get anyone tired. Heck, Lane Johnson tapped out halfway through practice to give Matt Pryor more reps at right tackle. And even Cam Jurgens came out early with Drew Kendall taking his place at center. But when it comes to the O-line, Tyler Steen probably had the best day of anyone.
Tyler's having an unbelievable camp. So much just physically stronger than he's ever been. He's got tremendous feet. And, he's going against Jalen Carter and Morrow every day. So, two really dynamic players, as you know, and he's holding his own, doing well, communicating the line. So, since he's got here, it's all been, learning and development, but he's really taken the next step and it's really had a great camp so far. So I'm excited for Steen.
In case you're wondering or care anything about records, it's kind of debatable. It may have ended in a tie. There's not really a general consensus. Nobody said it's a clear-cut favorite, but, not too bad for the first day. Now, sure, Hurts had a rough day, but the Eagles' defense managed to hold serve on their side of the ball. But as most media members pointed out, the Browns practice with great effort and probably a good reminder that the Eagles are going to get everyone's best this season, which is fine. I wouldn't have it any other way. Last thing here real quick, as for the giveaway winners of the Jahan Dotson signed jersey, that was Robert McGee who won during the live stream, as well as BSaver5942 for winning the signed Philly Dogs football. So congrats to both of you. I just need you to email me at thephillyspecialshow@gmail.com or DM me on one of the socials so that I can get at your info and confirm it's you. Remember, if they don't claim the items in a week, then I'm going to give them away on a live stream, so make sure you're subscribed, turn the notifications on so you don't miss out. Eagles practice again Thursday, day off Friday, and then the preseason game on Saturday, which I will be streaming. So for those, come hang out, stay tuned, we'll have a good time, more recaps coming. This has been the Philly Special.
Like I should